Well, it's official. We have now entered into the longest government shutdown of all time. But what exactly is a government shutdown, and what can you do if you've been affected by it? Well, all that and more in today's episode of 5-Minute Finance. So what is a government shutdown? Well, a government shutdown is what happens when the federal government hasn't allocated funds to the various government agencies, which means that the government agencies don't have any money to fund their operations, including their employees' wages. Every year, Congress must create an appropriations bill that determines government spending for the following year. You can think of this kind of like a budget for the federal government. This budget must be passed by Congress and signed by the President by September 30th every year. Although in recent years, they've been passing short-term spending bills to extend the deadline by a few weeks. And why do we have a system that requires politicians to agree on a budget every single year at the risk of a government shutdown? Well, for better or for worse, the United States is a democracy, which means we value voting for how our tax money gets used. And historically, that's worked out pretty well for us. So what do you do if you've been affected by the shutdown? Well, ideally you'd have enough saved in an emergency fund for just this kind of situation. But I understand that not everybody has a big enough emergency fund saved up for one reason or another. Regardless, here are a few things that you can do if you've been affected by the shutdown. First, cut back on your spending. No one really knows how long this government shutdown is going to last, so it's important to cut back on your spending on unnecessary things like eating out and other entertainment. This is also a good time to live more frugally by buying cheaper brands and cutting back on your gas and electricity usage. Next, if you owe money to a landlord, mortgage company, credit card company, or anyone else, try contacting them and see if they provide aid to those that are affected by the shutdown. Because of how widespread this shutdown is, many institutions are willing to work with you on your situation. On a related note, many banks and especially credit unions are offering low-interest loans to those affected by the shutdown, so try to apply for those if you need to. Lastly, consider finding other sources of income. Now, I'm not saying to go so far as to quit your job, but this could be a good time to clean up around your house and look for stuff to sell that you don't need anymore. Or, take advantage of the gig economy by signing up for services like Uber or Lyft, or one of the meal delivery services in your area. These jobs are great because they're easy to get started and they require no long-term commitment. And just to wrap this video up, I want to say that you will make it through this shutdown, but this may not be the last, so please take this as a learning experience and start building up an emergency fund that can last you for at least a few months without a paycheck to avoid this problem in the future. And speaking of learning opportunities, why don't you take this opportunity to learn more about personal finance by watching my other videos or clicking the subscribe button down below.